Jag gör det. Hello and welcome. We're just waiting a few minutes while setting up. So we're saying welcome to everybody who's joining continuously here, but we are still just setting up, so just allow a few more minutes. The main guest arrived as well. Welcome, Andres.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah. So people are joining in now fast, so let's give them a couple of more minutes before we start introductions.
That fits very well.
Yeah.
So what is the geographical presence of guests today? Everybody is from Estonia, or we are all over? Somebody is
name. There's predominantly Estonian names here, at least, but we have some Norwegian names as well. We have pre-registered around 25, but we have also shared to other chambers, so we are not sure how many will be joining from other chambers as well.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. And I learned my lesson the last time we had a webinar, so now people can join automatically. I don't have to approve them well, as they join and leave.
Yeah, this is something what actually has really evolved very quickly, the way of doing seminars and meetings online, and it actually works. And it gives you much more opportunities because of you save time from not commuting. Of course, it's not the same as face-to-face meeting. That's also fair to say, but as something in between, I think works well.
It works well, absolutely. You can at least reach a large audience in a very, very easy way. That's for sure. I think we have around 10 plus at least for now, so I think maybe we start introductions. So just say thank you, Andres, for accepting our invitation. Myself, Joar Terjesen, I've been the chairman of NEC now for about 6 months. I've been a member of NEC for about 4 years. Been doing business here in Estonia for that period of time as well. So we have basically set up this webinar as part of our basically mission to try and have more activity in the chamber now that we have had COVID, and of course not being able to meet so much as previously. So thank you very much for accepting the invitation to join us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, you are fairly new in politics as far as I've understood, even though you have had close relationship in previous engagements. But would you mind presenting yourself a little bit for the people participating?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you kindly said, and that I always feel well if somebody tells me that I'm still a young politician, because when I entered the politics back in summer of 2018, when I told to my friends that, look, if I start to behave a bit in a weird way, please let me know before it's too late. So I think it's important to obviously you are shaped by the position you are in, and you are shaped by the industry you are in, be it politics or any business, but it's also important to continue to be yourself, and that I think is really the most important factor. But before politics, most of my professional career has been related to financial sector. So I joined actually during my studies at the University Central Bank of Estonia back in 1992. So I was lucky to be part of a team who made the monetary reform, the introduction of Estonian krone back then. And then I worked in a central bank until 2009. Last 8 years, I was deputy governor in charge for financial stability. So way or another, I have been hands-in or hands-on with all the financial crisis what happened in Estonia, and also in some others in other parts of the world. So I felt after almost 17 years in the central bank that, well, you probably don't want to retire from that position. And I was then 42, so right time to make turns or U-turns. And then I first moved on to Washington to International Monetary Fund, where I was representing Estonia in the board. And after that, sort of to basically 2012, I moved to Luxembourg to set up or to help to set up European Financial Stability Facility and European Stability Mechanism, which was also a crazy startup, just with a very huge balance sheet. So we had unit of account was in billions, and that I'm still comfortable today. And actually, I told to the staff in the ministry as well that, look, whatever we do, the unit of account is in billions, and that actually helps if you want to take a global perspective. So we then decided to return from Luxembourg. I was at the ESM. I was in charge for all the banking related financial assistance. Was also mission chief for Cyprus, so I have spent probably easily half a year on the ground, not in one go, but in multiple trips. And then we moved back to Estonia for practical reason. Our youngest son, who has been traveling with us and has been only at school in US and in Luxembourg, we had to basically decide whether we stay in Luxembourg until he graduates or we will jump back, and then I was working for a year and a half in Eesti Energia, Estonian Energy, in charge for government affairs and customer services and also IT. And then time came to jump into the politics, and then I was elected to the parliament back in 2019. And from end January, also Minister for Entrepreneurship and IT.
You have bring significant experience, of course, in macroeconomics based on your background here. How do you think that will contribute now for the further growth of Estonia? You see it as an influential partner from macroeconomical perspective?
I think in general, I think experience helps. It's far easier to relate yourself, your ideas, your thoughts to something what you have experienced. I mean, you of course always should read also others' experience, but it somehow helps. And with some 30 years, I think I can relate to quite a few things, and I think I have also learned to value something what in English has a good word, being humble. And that actually helps a lot. You achieve, and you can get far more ahead if you would do otherwise. So, but politics is a different game. So you need to play by the rules, or when you bend the rules, that's also an option. But I think it helps, yes. And also I think what helps is the fact that I have been living abroad in total for 10 years, so I know what the expat life is. And if we market Estonia as an attractive place to work, to live, to invest, it has to be attractive also for expats of all generations, of all family situations, beginning of a career, mid-career, end career. You need to just play it smart.
You come in at a time of transition, at least from my perspective, where there has previously been a strategy that is executed by other politicians before you. And I understand there is like 3 main strategies ongoing at the moment with regards to Estonia 2035. You have the Estonian national strategy for sustainable development, and you have a government strategy as well.
Yeah, that's been something I also sometimes wonder. How many strategies we have, and so what's the degree of execution. But I think what is clear, and this is where we are not only in Estonia, but I think globally, we are at a crossroads. COVID itself has accelerated the way world has been transitioning. But increasing competition between the great powers, if you look at the 3 largest economies, the US, EU, China, I mean, this trend of more protectionist view has been present since the great financial crisis, 2008-9. And of course, COVID has very much accelerated the divergence, I would say. And if you look at the many angles, starting from repositioning supply chains, value chains, bringing it closer to home, being less dependent on other regions. I think this, personally, I think this is sort of, we go in the wrong direction, but that's something we can't change in the short term. So in a short term and with a long-term impact, we should, of course, position Estonia strategically in a way that we remain attractive for investment, for talent. And of course, there are 3 major trends or transitions what will shape our future: the green transition, digitalization, innovation. We need to be good, or not good, I mean very good at all of them in order to move ahead. And for that, I think what we miss a bit here in Estonia, or what we need to revive, and I sort of look back to early 90s but also 2000s, early 2000s, there was more risk appetite and there was more global ambition. This is what I intend to bring back because if we look at our startup sector, for example, I mean, their success is very much driven first by setting a global ambition, and then of course you need to have execution and you need to have some luck as well. I mean, you need to have a combination of the 3. But if you don't have a global ambition, then you can't never become a unicorn, and that holds true for any other industry. I have met with more than 20 industry associations. I think I haven't never had that good overview of Estonian economy, even not in a central bank. So I think we have many enterprises which are not that well known, but I think which have a very good potential. And there are a number of sectors, particularly in the industrial side, where we actually, if we do things right, we can get the big jump forward.
Yeah, it's definitely a modernization now, as also Estonia has more like an innovation-driven strategy towards doing more high-tech, basically, production here versus previously before. The competition edge for being a cheap supplier or cheap supplier of labor, these days are over. That's for sure. This I can even say as a Norwegian. And the previous government had this smart specialization trend going on for many years. So basically, this was regards to I like the saying they used teaching a man to catch a fish instead of giving him a fish. I believe the very practical application from Estonian perspective that yes, we should educate our people so they can basically be successful and earn money for Estonia, pay taxes and help grow the country. And do you think this strategy that was in the past delivered any value for Estonia in general?
Yeah, I think again, if you really turn clock backwards 30 years when we became re-independent and objectively assess where we are today, I think that has been a remarkable journey. And sort of what the choices I think made in the past, by and large, have helped us to come here or to arrive here. Looking forward, I mean, the same choices will not bring us qualitatively or quantitatively to the next level. And that's why when I was looking at the numbers on, for example, on fixed investment by private companies, it was only in 2019 then the level of investment in nominal terms reached to the level where it was, and you guess when? In 2008. So at the peak of the last boom, it was sort of roughly, I think, 4 billion, and then it reached above, a little bit above 4 billion in 2019. And at the same time, you see that the cash on accounts in the banks, corporates is going up. So for some reason, private money is not investing. I think we need a magnitude higher private investment going forward, but not in concrete and in infrastructure that much, or not only in infrastructure, but far more in technology, equipment, innovation, and attracting the talent. Because I was visiting Tartu University last week, or no, 2 weeks ago, I believe. And then I also their number one challenge is how to attract the talent to the university. And then I proposed to them that what do you think about the goal having 10,000 more students in 10 years in Tartu University globally? I mean, you need to attract, and that was a bit scared, I think, them off. But then we started to discuss and said, yes, but we need to, of course, keep our role as a Estonian university, but we could find the ways how to attract the international talent. And there are areas where, for example, in hydrogen, what is, I think, fairly well available in terms of knowledge at the university, or in domain of air. So there are, what I see today is it's a bit fragmented. There are kind of great companies, great scientists, but we need to pull them together and make them to talk more with each other, and also to invite more guest speakers from around the world. I was proposing to the Employers Association that when they do the next Tuulelohe Lend, the flagship conference they host, that there should be in every panel at least 50% of people who come from outside Estonia, and their geographical coverage has to be Asia, Middle East, and Americas. So we need to get these outside in view to the country. Otherwise, we are discussing amongst ourselves, and that doesn't bring us forward. So it's more, in a way, it's going back to the roots, being open again, taking more risks again. I think there is objectively a bigger fear of risk taking today, because there is seemingly much more to lose than it was back in 90s when there was not much to lose but a lot to gain. But no risk means no reward. If you talk about innovation, you must accept that 8 out of 10 of your projects are wasted at best. And then there are 2 or 1 which actually deliver and make the difference. So these type of things, I think we should get back also as a society. But we are not going to put all the eggs in one basket. But we must take more risk in or sort of we shouldn't really be afraid to fail in testing or in innovating, but which basically is kind of consistent with the definition of innovation. So how well the strategy is reflected today, I think the strategy on R&D and innovation and entrepreneurship is capturing in a big picture, including if we want to achieve 110% of labor productivity of the EU average. We are at 80 today. I mean, this is not incremental change what is needed. It's an exponential growth in technology, in innovation, in investment, and all the green and digital transition, actually, they all work for that direction.
I couldn't help taking a note that you mentioned that the savings rate is going up. So can I assume you're a favor of Keynesian economics then, that we should basically be investing this now?
I mean, well, look, I mean, if you have cash on your bank account as a corporate, and if this is your best investment, then I think something is not something is missing. For me, something is missing. I mean, that could all be fine, but then we need to accept that we are basically keeping our present level. It's more of a question how much government needs to invest. And here I think government shouldn't really go any further than it is already. I mean, government has been a significant investor. It's more of a private sector investment what is lagging behind. That's not a complaint. This is just a statement of the fact and a big question mark. What is holding back? And we need to get answers to this question mark. I mean, I don't think there is one simple answer. What if you do a bit of switching here and there, then investment boom starts. I think it's far more subtle and deeper. But the key for success is in private investment. We shouldn't really expand government any further.
But then you have this challenge of attracting those foreign investments as well, as there is limited funds here. As you say, you need to get it from abroad. But there are significant challenges related to investment here as well, because you have to also have the labor force to meet those demands, especially when you come to more technical industry. So sure. How do you intend to tackle that challenge, plain and simple, for attracting more FDI?
Yeah, that is true. And this is the biggest difference we have with the previous government. Estonia is open for business and talents are welcome. I can't see any other way. I mean, if we look at the demographics objectively, we see people retiring at bigger numbers than we have a younger population entering the labor market. And that's not unique for Estonia. There are a number of European countries, and for that matter, I think also China, who are facing the similar challenge. So the solution for investment and skilled labor force is in attracting talent. And that's why the example I gave with university is important, because if you get people or students here and they study, if there are good facilities next to the university to mingle with the business, to startups, to have a good programs for engineering and so on and so forth, I mean, you can retain these people. If they find Estonia is an attractive place to live, the culture fits, and that, I mean, it's not that we open all the borders and whoever wants to come can cross the border. That's not really the point. The point is that we need to be among the best in competing for talent, and for that you need to be open. So that's why I think this is actually what you should tell me. How do you feel about how open Estonia is?
Well, in the sense, from my own experience here, as also a student here for many years myself, I have heard quite a bit of complaints about immigration and opportunities to come here, especially when we consider what's typical of third world in the sense that it's not European Union. And even for employment here for the same criteria, it is not easy unless you fall under the special category where you have a higher income basically directly as well. So that's definitely a challenge the way I see it, because we need these multicultural environments to thrive on innovation, everything that will bring with it as well. And as you also say, it's quite obvious that we need more taxpayers to fund each individual pensioner here. Otherwise, taxes will go up. This is basic economics, as you also are aware. So yes, bringing people in would be good. But again, you bring people in, but more Estonians leave. And that's also quite an interesting one.
But well, I'm not sure. I think if you look at the statistics, and here I mean I might be wrong as well, but of course the net number is positive, so there are more people coming in than leaving, and I think it has been also positive for Estonians returning for a couple of years. I think returning more than going abroad. And then I mean it's also more, let's put it this way, philosophical question. If somebody comes from Võru to work in Tallinn, that is considered labor market flexibility, or that's all okay. But if somebody from, say, Paide goes to Finland, to Helsinki, that's somehow leaving, traveling too far or working too far. So there are, and I think it was important back in 2009-10, then Estonia was really struggling to get out of a crisis, and there was far stronger economy in Finland to actually give employment to those people who work in the construction services. I think that was, it wasn't first choice, it probably wasn't also second best, but it certainly helped. I mean, it's far better than these people being unemployed. So I think the labor mobility between the two countries, and there is another point I have been also talking to Finnish Estonian Chamber of Commerce and with our not ambassadors, but honorary consuls in Finland, that look, we should rather look on, for example, if we look at Tallinn and Helsinki, or Helsinki and Tallinn, as one connected city. If we market further out geographically, and two, say, bigger events once COVID permitting, that there is part of it happening in Helsinki and the other part happening in Tallinn. I mean, the two cities are really close, and there are, I think, there is a very little what really we compete with each other. I think there is much more complementarity, and if we can market this as a Finnish Bay Area, which I think Peter Festerbacher, who is very famously known for the tunnel project. But for me, his far bigger idea is actually in what he said he would like to see here in the Finnish Bay Area. But this is the area of the highest talent concentration in the world. And for me, this is much more of a significance, and then we can if the two capitals are well connected, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a physical tunnel. If it happens, that's fine too. But I think there are ways to better integrate via air. We used to have helicopter service from downtown to downtown until this unfortunate crash what happened. But otherwise, I think the only thing what matters. I was in Ida-Virumaa in Northeast Estonia, where is a company, Aquaphor, who is producing water cleaning equipment, and they told that what they want to expand, and and that would be really a big investment, 200 million, 700 jobs, the largest factory of a group in the world, and they told we also need a small airfield. Because if you can fly to Tallinn and then you drive like 2.5 or 3 hours to Narva, and that's not really an option. But if there is an air connection, 20 minutes, or actually 20 minutes to Tallinn, 20 minutes to Helsinki, I think being connected is really it's important, and the only thing that matters is time to travel. Kilometers are in that sense irrelevant. If it takes 10 minutes, that is acceptable. It takes 2 hours, well, way too much. So I think there are many things, and also like we communicate now, that also is actually cutting the time to travel to zero. So there was an event which was organized by Brazilian community, and then I was still in the parliament, and they asked me to give sort of a bit of the story of Estonia, and then it was really fascinating. Some people were from Brazil, some from US, some from Asia, some from Europe. I mean, all somehow connected to Brazil, and it all happened in the same time. And time-wise, or time zone-wise, we are just in the middle of Asia and Americas. So there is no. I mean, it's a good location.
Yeah, yes, of course, in that sense. But it's like a little bit also divergent strategy. We say we focus now more on modernizing and doing things more or less face-to-face and have our own specialists. And again, we also say we want to bring people together and also closer physically as well. Just as a small side note on that one as well.
Of course.
But generally, I see there has been lots of talk now about also raising Estonia's ranking, this ease of doing business as well. You've been hovering around this 18th, 20th place for many years to come now. And I guess, is that point on your agenda as well?
It is, and that I think is generally a point what brings me back to this global ambition, because we have been in say low 30s, high 20s in many rankings for many years, and I think we could safely be there for another, I don't know, decade, or with some incremental improvements and moving bits and pieces here and there. But if we want to move to low 20s. Or high teens, and even more so to low teens or even to single digits, that has to be a qualitative jump. And the biggest gap we face, I think, in maybe if not in any, but then in most of these league tables, the GDP per capita is still too low. But GDP per capita can only increase if we get more investment and or more labor, but the two come together and doing business. There are some things, but I think we can maybe fix more easily, like the bankruptcy proceedings and stuff. But there are others, I think, where it still is a question where people should genuinely feel that yes, this is really attractive place to come, and yeah, and to bring in.
But this, I feel it's a little bit this chicken and egg situation. If you have made all the foundation to actually build something here, you have the labor force, you have the research investments, you have all the grants, you have everything set up for that, then these investors would also come and set up here. At the moment, setting up here is somewhat of a risk because you know that there are things missing, and many of the things, especially when it comes to this kind of ease of doing business ranking, is related especially to workforce. It's at least been consistent for the last 5 years.
No, that is a fair point, and this is precisely where there are two, I mean, solutions. The long-term one, of course, is that we should have a really like a deeper look into whom we train, what kind of professions we need, not today, but from 5 to 10 years on. So that's sort of a long-term solution, and here I'm happy we have very good bond with Ministry of Education and Science. And the second is more acute, the short term. I mean, because it takes time before you turn this education and training ship a bit. So you need the solution in between. And here, sort of the feedback what I have received from different industries is again, it's one thing with IT and where is also a shortage of skills or people with sufficient skills. But in manufacturing, for example, there has been also a point that the most critical segment is between the average salary and 2 times average salary. This is a segment where you actually lack some of the people, and I think we need to sort of review what can be done, and also the duration of working permits, so that it could, because it takes time to train, and that's why it's all understandable. So we need to find a good balance here, and of course we still have 56k people unemployed, which is also, I mean, a factor you can't ignore. So, but oftentimes these skill sets are different, and you are not going to make I don't know, a client service person overnight an engineer or a factory employee. So it's a different different character. So we need, that's what we I have also passed on to employers. But if they face a bottleneck or a difficulty in attracting, just give feedback, and then we can see what can be changed in the regulations. Regulations, I think, are a bit easier. If you go to change the law, that takes more of an effort.
It is a little bit of a conundrum to me that you have a country where you are so strong in these PISA rankings, you perform so well at the lower levels of schooling, but then again, when you come to the amount of graduates in University of Science and Engineering, it's quite poor results compared to the PISA rankings. You don't have that reflection in the numbers that you would kind of imagine that you would have.
I think that is probably something what it's a big question in terms of sort of how education is funded, and what is the share a student or a university student pays. Today they have to pay 0 for tuition, and of course they have to pay for housing and other expenses, which you would do anyway. So could it be also a factor that as you don't have your own money in, you basically take it a bit more easier, sort of the choice you make, or for how long you study and what you study. So I think that's the debate we need to have, also for a reason that that this sort of a formula of funding everything from the budget is certainly not going to be viable in the long term. And the second thing, there is also a different example. There is a far smaller, more applied education institute called Cleveron Academy, which they do together with minor university or high school. And they had, so this is very practical engineering 3-year program, and they had a competition, 5 applicants for one place. So I think it's also what the content, what is offered, and what is it sort of a practical. Does it make young people to move and see that this is a meaningful profession, what I will learn. I have a perspective, and I can sort of do my dreams. So that, I think, there is no one easy answer, but there are many things we need to kind of openly discuss.
Yeah. We had, I think, we are running on time already, and we had some questions directly raised from our members as well. So if maybe move us over there, if you don't mind. So we have 3 questions from our members. So I will basically just allow you to give a chance to answer on these ones. So question number 1, are there any plans to consider investment support to other regions further from Tallinn, like the one in Ida-Virumaa?
what we have in AIS, Enterprise Estonia, these schemes apply horizontally. I mean, there is no differentiation based on the geography, and if you look at the EU funding, that's also true. That there is no like a geographical tag attached, apart from Just Transition Fund, which is really meant for a county of Ida-Virumaa. Otherwise, I think, like for example, or CREDEX, the problem we face today certainly is that if you want to build a factory or a business outlet outside of Tallinn, Golden Circle, or any of the bigger cities, I mean, the value of a finished building is less than you had to invest in to build it. And then the banks tell you, look, I mean, yes, you have a great idea business-wise, but sorry, the collateral is insufficient, which I think is a pity, because in good old days, I shall say, banking was also meant taking some risks. And also funding, because in 1990s and the first decade of 2000, and it's true, I admit it was also boom and bust, but it actually delivered us far further. And the banks were willing and able to finance at the time not only the lowest risk and the most senior part of the debt, but also something what was in between the equity and the senior. So, and for that we need today two things. We need better and bigger capital markets domestically, so that you can actually supply these layers of capital, and also CREDEX can help with guarantees. So I think that's my 10 cents or 5 cents to the regional.
I am also old enough to remember that if you got a house loan, it was dependent on who your father was and who his father was, and how long you've been a customer at the bank. Those were the main criteria, at least once upon a time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next question is also raised here. So, are there any discussions about motivating the local municipalities to support investments?
Yeah, I mean, that's the other kind of irony. I mean, I have been telling here that we need much more investment, and we also need a lot more foreign direct investment. And then if sometimes people come and want to invest, then they really get stuck at the level of local municipality. Everybody is saying, welcome to green energy, to wind parks, but not in my backyard. And then this is where we have some sort of thoughts, and that's in the Ministry of State, Jakob, Minister of State Affairs. So to see how we can motivate the municipalities, but actually it helps if you are business friendly. I don't know if it is necessarily taxes, but we will look into it. But the point is clear. It does. Currently, there is very limited motivation for municipalities. Not all of them, but clearly it will help.
We have another one as well with regards to lack of qualified workforce. This we have addressed several times actually already today. But there was specifically, are there any plans for promoting vocational education among young, especially mothers, probably who have lost opportunity to maybe go to university in that part of their age, etc.?
Yeah, Töötukassa, what's the English word? Unemployment insurance agency, I think. They have, and that, I mean, this is now a place for a honest feedback. If what's your view on their services and offers? So I think this is where they are actually doing quite a few programs. I think there is also quite a bit of funding from EU side. Then the next question is, what are the specific skills what are lacking? and how willing are these people to obtain these skills. And this, I think, is a bit more tricky matchmaking, but it certainly, I mean, if you look at the economic situation or Estonian economy today, then you have one part of it which is frozen, which is basically the tourism and the hospitality service industry. And then the rest of it, I would say, is basically, if not hot, then quite warm. And we still have 56,000 people unemployed. I mean, IT sector has been saying they have more than 8,000 vacancies they want to fill. Quite a number of manufacturing companies have also told me that, look, we just lack the people. Or if you look at agriculture as well, the seasonal workers, you don't find them from here. So, but I think the question about young or youth and mothers is of course important, because I mean, I think you need to make it kind of smooth or to keep people somehow related to the job market, because the further time-wise you stay away, the more difficult it becomes to re-enter. And maybe here the distance working and gig working actually helps, particularly for youth, because I suspect they are far more flexible than elder generations in this regard. Are they willing to study sort of profession? What is maybe demanding? I think that's also a tricky part. So, but I don't have actually statistics at hand now. How our vocational education in terms of number of students has evolved, and are they basically then also getting employed in the field they studied? But I think in the big picture, the most important thing is that whatever you do at school, the most important thing to learn at school is to learn to learn. That is key, because that you need throughout your adult life. And I hope this is something that also our school system increasingly more provides.
I hear it's very easy to say those words. I noticed you also cum laude graduate. So of course you have you're used to studying, and you have also continued to study throughout your life as well, as myself for that matter. And that's some motivation and drive you're kind of born with, or you don't not. And it's very easy for Elon Musk to say you don't need to go to college to be successful. But of course, when you have 140 IQ and you're driven like nobody else in this world, of course you don't need to go to college. You will learn whatever you need to learn, because you have all the tools there for that. But yeah, it's not so easy for everyone, basically.
But I think it's important, because that has also been, and I have also 3 children. 2 of them are already graduated and at work, and then the youngest one is in the 10th grade. And then we have also every now and then discussed what the life is for young people, and obviously they oftentimes say that it should be much better, which I don't disagree. But I think when it comes to like dropouts, that you look at Steve Jobs or Bill Gates and then some others, I mean, look, they didn't ever finish the university, which is factually correct. But people oftentimes forget that they actually were admitted to the top universities in the world. So actually, if you jump across that bar, you are probably fairly capable in terms of your skills to learn. So that's why but there is, I mean, I think there is a right bar for everybody. Not everybody needs to be Elon Musk, or not everybody needs to go to university. Not everybody needs to finish cum laude. I think people need to live also a decent life. I think that's also important. But ability or to learn how to learn is really important. At least this is what I can tell of my 53 years of living experience.
Yeah. But anyway, we said we would open the opportunity for somebody participating also to ask any questions. So if anybody has something to say, the opportunity is there to use the raise hand function in Teams. So give anybody a chance if somebody had a question to raise. I saw here. Let's see. Sorry, just have to identify who now. Yes, Yuri. You may. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. It's Yuri Blom, a solicitor, member of Norwegian Chamber of Commerce. And I have two questions, short ones though. The first one is that we have been in heavy discussions with Enterprise Estonia representatives also in Norway about the demands or requirements about the amounts to be invested into Estonia to get the support. And as far as we have understood, then the minimum investment size in order to get the support from different funding resources is 30 million euros. And 30, yeah. And if you consider this looking from a Norwegian side, then 300 million NOK to invest into Estonia to get the support of 3 million euros is far too high. So we must double check it, but these amounts are extremely big considering the foreign investments. So if we are talking about the Norwegian investments, then these are in a more reasonable, human and understandable size, and 300 million to be invested into Estonia, that would be quite an investment. So we have been discussing it that these levels should be lowered. Maybe 300 million for the investment from Russia, which is a big question mark anyway, or from Germany is not so big, but it must be taken case by case or country by country. And I hope that this kind of message will be forwarded to some authorities, at least in Enterprise Estonia.
Yes, I mean that a bit surprises me because I'm sure we have smaller projects as well what have been supported by Enterprise Estonia, but certainly I will pick it up because I mean, well, of course it depends also what kind of support you're asking for. If you ask, is it sort of financial support, some advisory services, combination of many things.
I'm not so sure and not ready to answer that, but we have been discussing with Enterprise Estonia people about moving over the factories from Scandinavia, and in order to get the support of 10% or from the support from this side of 10%, then the minimum amount of investment must be 300 million.
Okay, but this is something we will double check.
Yeah.
I mean, even 300 billion of Norwegian investment would be very, very fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. But obviously, I mean, 30 million is sizable. I mean, any investment is important.
Yes.
So we shouldn't really maybe take too big ticket necessarily, but we shall check.
Yeah. And another question which just popped into my computer was 1 hour ago. Maybe it's not really the issue for you, but I was asked to look around on the Rail Baltic tender or procurement advertisements, and then I found out that all, or not all, but for example, the IT procurement, which will end on the 15th of May, is poorly only in Latvian language, and most of the Rail Baltic tender papers are in Latvian, which means that there must be something wrong in that. Otherwise, we can't talk anything about the joint Baltic Eastern European project when we need, for sure, involve Latvian specialists in order to get the documents in English. So I know that it's not your specific, but procurement papers must be in English, that's for sure.
Yeah, Latvian is a nice language, like Estonian.
Absolutely, no doubt.
We should make sure, of course, that people who want to participate in the tender also understand the language. But I was just seeing that in the chat room there is already a link to support awarded to like large investors, and it says basically that maximum amount is capped at 3 million currently, and it is up to 10% of a total investment or a total project.
Yeah, 10%.
So if you come with 1 million, you are qualifying for 100K max. So there is no limit in that sense if you come in a smaller amount. If you come with 30 million, you qualify for free. If you come with 40, you still qualify for free.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we'll double check it. Thank you. No more questions.
Somebody have a quick question? We have an opportunity for a last couple of minutes.
Yes, this is really last couple of minutes because I need to give an interview.
Yeah. Okay. No, but we can end it here. I think we have kept everybody then for a while. Thank you very much for participating. Hope to be able to invite you to a physical event soon as well.
Yes, my pleasure, and very happy to attend also the event in person. And I would like to keep certainly the contact because we are here all together. For me, it's important that the industry associations and the chambers of commerce that you have like a free information channel to me, so we can pick up the points what need fixing, and then we also can discuss what are the really great stuff what we can build together.
Yeah, these countries are very closely related, and we're also celebrating this 100 years of the diplomatic relations also this year. But we do have seen a decline in actually Norwegian companies' presence in Estonia. And of course, we are very much interested in making that change, basically.
Yes, let's reverse it. Absolutely.
Yeah. But then thank you very much for your time. Everybody else also, thank you for joining in. And we will post this one also live on the website, etc. as well. So if anybody wants to share it and have it for later, then that's an opportunity as well.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. Have a good day, everybody.
Yeah. Good day.